In a twisted family bound by blood and dark rituals, one daughter escapes. But the nightmare doesn't end there. What happens when you run from the sins of your past, only to realize you are the monster? This is the story of a mother, a daughter, and a curse that refuses to die. Get ready for a chilling tale of betrayal, revenge, and family secrets that should never be revealed. Hey, welcome to my channel at Sensational Stories. If you love powerful stories, real talk, and unexpected twists, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and get ready, because it's about to get real. Ever since Mira was a child, her mother whispered that their family was special, that their blood carried something ancient, pure, a blessing, and a curse. She was raised on strange rituals and darker warnings. Trust no one outside. Only your blood can protect you. Only your blood can love you. When she turned 19, the ceremonies grew stranger. Her mother wove tales at the edge of sleep, stories of ancestors who made sacrifices to keep the family strong. Mira didn't understand, but the pressure was relentless. Her mother wept, begged, and swore that if Mira truly loved her family, she would bind herself to her brother Caleb in ways deeper than blood. "It's not wrong," her mother said, clutching Mira's hands with cracked, desperate fingers. "It's survival. Without it, we will wither. You will wither." Caleb never spoke of it. He only watched her, silent and hollow-eyed, as if he too were drowning in expectation. One night, dressed in white and trembling, Mira was led into the cold cellar where generations of portraits stared down from crumbling stone walls. Candles flickered. The air stank of mold and wax. At the center of the room was a bed, draped in old lace. Beside it, her mother stood smiling, the kind of smile that carried madness just beneath the skin. "This is your duty, Mira," she whispered. "Your destiny." Mira looked at Caleb, a mirror of her own fear, and knew that if she stayed, she would lose herself completely. As her mother began chanting the old guttural words, Mira turned and ran. Up the stone stairs, through the overgrown garden, into the cold, bitter night. She didn't look back, even when her mother's voice screamed after her. Filled with rage and heartbreak, she ran until the stars blurred into tears, until the blood in her veins felt like her own again. For months, Mira hid. She changed her name, worked in dingy motels, ate canned soup, and slept with a knife under her pillow. But even across towns and cities she could feel her mother's pull, a phantom claw scraping at her dreams. Freedom tasted hollow. It wasn't enough to run, not while they still lived, not while they still believed they owned her. Mira spent her nights planning, learning. She read the old grimoires her mother once kept locked away, tracing her family's rotten history. Generations of manipulation, of madness, disguised as tradition. She found rituals to sever blood ties, and curses to burn them at the root. By the time winter came, Mira wasn't the same girl who had fled barefoot into the night. She was something else now, something colder, sharper, something born to destroy the thing that birthed her. On the night of the first snow, Mira returned to the crumbling estate. It stood half swallowed by the forest, vines choking the stone, windows like empty eyes. She walked through the front doors. They swung open like they had been waiting for her. Inside, her mother knelt before the hearth, stirring a fire that barely lit the room. Caleb sat at her feet, pale and silent, his wrists bound by heavy silver cuffs. His eyes flicked up at Mira, and for a moment she thought she saw a flicker of something. Hope. "You've come home," her mother croaked, smiling wide enough to split her face. Our little lamb has returned. Mira said nothing. She stepped closer. The sigils carved into her palms pulsed with hidden power. Her mother stood, arms open for an embrace. Come, daughter. Let us finish what we began. Mira smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Only fire, only vengeance. She spoke the words she had spent months memorizing, words from a time before the family twisted them into chains. The candles guttered, the walls shook. Her mother's smile curdled into a snarl. "What are you doing?" she shrieked. Mira's voice was steady. "Ending it!" Roots burst from the floors, twisting up like skeletal hands. They wrapped around her mother's legs, her arms, her throat. Caleb, untouched, watched with wide, trembling eyes. The last thing her mother saw was the face of the daughter she had tried to break, standing tall, unbroken, free. The fire roared higher, the old house built on centuries of blood and fear finally began to fall. When the sun rose, Mira and Caleb stood at the edge of the smoking ruins. She looked at him. This brother she barely knew, this fellow prisoner. "You're free now," she said. Caleb blinked, as if the word itself was foreign. Mira didn't wait for thanks. She turned and walked into the forest, the ashes of her past drifting on the wind behind her. She was no longer bound by blood. She was her own creation now, and nothing would ever cage her again. Flashback. Long before she was mother, she was simply Eleanor, a girl with wide green eyes and dirt under her nails, growing up in the crumbling house under the heavy gaze of her own mother, Cecilia. Cecilia believed in purity, in the old stories passed down from ancestors who had fled into the woods with only blood and fire to protect them. "We are chosen," Cecilia whispered to Eleanor as she braided her hair so tightly it hurt. "The world outside is poison. Only family is sacred." Eleanor believed her. What choice did she have? When she was 15, the ceremonies began. Late at night, the family would gather, thin, hollow-eyed uncles and aunts, chanting in low voices around the bone-white altar in the cellar. Eleanor stood in the center wearing the same white lace her daughter would one day flee from. They carved the family mark into her palms. They poured hot wax down her spine, sealing the pact. They forced her to drink bitter herbs that made her mind blur and her heart race. On her 16th birthday, Cecilia took her aside. No candles, no gifts, just a heavy key placed into her hand. "This is your burden now," she said. "You will keep the bloodline pure. You will do what I could not." Eleanor didn't understand then, but she would. She married a man she did not love, a cousin from another branch of the family tree, chosen by Cecilia. Together they had 2 children, Caleb, then Mira. By then, Elena was already broken into too many pieces to count. She wore her smiles like cracked porcelain. She sang lullabies with bloodied lips. She tried to be gentle, tried to love the way she thought mothers were supposed to. But every time she looked at her children, she saw only one thing: obligation. "They must stay loyal," Cecilia's voice hissed in her memory, "or they will destroy us all." The world outside was a swirling maw of dangers. Friends, lies, love, betrayal. Only blood could be trusted. And so, when Caleb and Mira came of age, Eleanor did what she thought was mercy. She tried to bind them together before the world could tear them apart. She thought she was saving them. Even when she held Mira's trembling hands in the cellar, even when Caleb's wide, frightened eyes begged for something. Anything else, Elena told herself it was love. It was protection. It was destiny. Because if it wasn't, if it was wrong, Then Elena would have to admit she had lived and ruined her entire life for a lie. And that was a truth she could never face. When Mira ran, when Caleb recoiled, when the fire swallowed the house whole, Eleanor did not scream because she was angry. She screamed because for the first time in her cursed life, she saw the truth. She was not a savior. She was the final curse, and curses do not survive in the light. Moral lesson: the bonds of family are powerful, but they should never be used to control or destroy. True strength comes from breaking free of toxic legacies, confronting the darkness of the past, and forging your own path. This story teaches that while family ties can be deeply important, they must not be manipulated for harmful purposes. Freedom and self-empowerment lie in rejecting destructive traditions and finding the courage to redefine one's own identity.